Ben, we're getting some live activity. As you can see, the sky's lighting up there in Jerusalem. Trey.
Yeah, Sandra, we are seeing what appear to be some interceptor rounds coming off from the sea, which means some of that missile fire certainly has started. As I talk to you here, we're just going to put on some protective gear, and my cameraman, Yaniv, is going to follow some of these small dots of light that you see in the sky. Remember, we do expect any sort of defensive response to be paired not only with Israeli systems, but also American systems. But this is an indication that that missile fire is imminent. Sandra,
and
John?
We know this is happening after the IDF, as we were just discussing, Trey, just a short while ago, identified these missiles launched from Iran towards the territory of the state of Israel. The defense systems are operating to intercept that threat. We know there, as you are doing now, public's been instructed to enter a protected space, remain there until further notice. Trey, we're just getting a firsthand look at what you are going through just to deliver the news from Tel Aviv at this hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Sandra and John, when we talk about these missile attacks, we have seen them before. You might remember last year on April 1st, the Israelis targeted the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, and they killed a top official from the IRGC. 12 days later, the Iranians responded with missiles and drones toward this country. There was a similar attack against Israel in October of 2024. And during that attack, we were in the northern city of Haifa, and you could see the incoming Iranian ballistic missiles over Syrian airspace as some of them were intercepted. And just stay with me here. I just want to talk to my crew very quickly to ensure we know what's happening. But just to give you a sense of how quickly these things happen, the Israelis do get an alert ahead of time. And an official told me just before we got on air here that the top spokesman for the Israeli military, and I'm just going to step out of the frame here, Yaniv, off in the distance, look at the skyline, and you're going to see this is likely Israel's Arrow defense system or David Sling. These are live images coming to you right now as Israel works to intercept incoming ballistic missile fire. This is a very fluid situation, so stay with us here. And I'm just going to toss it back to you for 10 seconds as I talk to the crew. I want to make sure everyone is prepared in case we need to move quickly.
Trey, do what you have to do. We'll check back in with you in a moment. Get back to Ben Hall. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, Sandra, remember that we saw some of these similar attacks last year when the Iranians fired about 200 missiles at Israel. And in that case, the Iron Dome and the other air defense systems shot down all of them, except about, I believe it was 60 of them. Now, at that point, the air defense systems were able to handle it. But Iran has thousands of ballistic missiles. And the thinking is if they want to overwhelm those air defense systems, then they would fire them in much bigger bursts. We don't yet know how many have been fired at this point, but that is the only way that the Iranians will be able to get around the Israeli air defense system. So we have to see what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, Ben, this is happening at the moment. This is a live shot. You can see the skies lighting up there. Trey, if you're in a safe position to do so, please do tell us what you're seeing and hearing.
Yeah, Sandra, this is a significant attack, the attack the Israelis have been preparing for in response. Air raid sirens are now starting to sound across Tel Aviv, an indication, and I can see interceptors coming off from all directions. We don't know exactly how many missiles have been fired by the Iranians, but this is Israel's second largest city, a population of 300,000 people. And right now they are headed, and you're seeing an interception right there, up to the sky, Yaniv. Just stay with us. We just need to be calculated here. We're good here, and we are going to, okay, so right now what we are seeing, Sandra, is Israel's missile defense systems, likely along with American systems, working to intercept incoming ballistic missile fire. This is the attack that the Israeli Army warned about. We spoke with officials before we started this live report, and they said they actually had to cut short a statement by Israel's top spokesman because they got some information that this attack was about to be underway. These sirens that you hear off in the distance, again, are used to warn the population to get into shelters. And we're just going to wait and see what information we can gather about this. And we have a statement right now, Sandra, from the IDF, and I'm just going to read it to you in real time. A short while ago, sirens sounded in several areas across Israel following the identification of missiles from Iran toward the state of Israel. The public is asked to follow the instructions of the Home Front Command. At this time, the Israeli Air Force is operating to intercept and strike where necessary to eliminate the threat. It's essential to continue following the instructions of the Home Front Command. And so, again, the Israelis are operating in real time not only to strike the missile launching positions inside of Iran, but also to shoot down any of that fire. And they will use the defense systems on the ground, but also fighter jets if there are any sort of drones that are flying toward Israel to try to distract the air defense systems. But it gives you a sense. Okay, and I'm going to have my cameraman go back to the skyline here, and you're going to see more interceptor rounds coming off over Tel Aviv. The Iranians are targeting major population centers in Israel, again, in response to the operation overnight that took out a number of IRGC officials. And we can see flashes in the skies over Tel Aviv. Just pull out of this shot here a little bit, Yaniv, and I'm just going to talk to my cameraman while we're talking here. So there are some interceptors. Okay, there are interceptors coming in off the sea, and you're going to see some in the distant skyline. There's a missile, and it is headed down. So some of this I can already see, John and Sandra, is not being intercepted. We just saw one of the missiles. Okay, and there's an interception right over Tel Aviv. Pull out here, Yaniv, and you're going to see the trail. Just listen here. Okay, this is some short-range systems. Stay here, Yaniv. Pull out a little bit. Okay, there's just a massive amount of fire coming to Tel Aviv right now. Yaniv, get ready to pull it off the stick. Get off the sticks. All right, let's go. Time to go. Okay. Guys, come on, everyone move. Everyone move now. Stay with us, stay with us. Pick up the gear, let's go.
All right, so there you can see, I mean, this has happened again. We've seen this before, but this is a barrage of missiles, the likes of which we maybe did not see the last time. And the other unknown, Sandra, is as Iron Dome and David Sling and the Arrow system and the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense systems are all going off at the same time, it seems here. The last time this happened, there was a coordinated defense between Israel, the United States, and other countries, including Jordan, to intercept these with aircraft as well. Trey, I mean, it's unbelievable to see what we're seeing going on in the skies above Tel Aviv right now.
Yeah, John, Sandra, you saw those live images. Israel is under a massive ballistic missile barrage. I've reported here for nearly 7 years and never seen such an attack against an Israeli city. The amount of air defense that you saw going off there it's unprecedented. It appears that they are targeting some of the centrally located positions in Tel Aviv. Remember, Israel's Ministry of Defense, the Kiryat, their version of the Pentagon, is located just a couple miles from here. The fact that they had to start using those short-range missile defense systems indicates that this is a direct attack on Israel's second largest city. We don't know what's happening in other areas, and we have to wait and gather more information to get a full understanding of what was targeted. But from what we could see and what you saw in those live images, massive explosions rocking the skyline. You could hear the explosions, flashes of light in Tel Aviv. That's when we made the decision to get a little bit more cover because this is an unprecedented moment for Israel. Again, the Iranians right now are responding to the ongoing waves of strikes that are taking place, targeting not only their nuclear facilities, but also top IRGC officials, including the leader of the IRGC, Hussein Salami. And we can expect more Israeli strikes in response to this. Just given how intense the fire, almost certainly American defense systems were involved in this. We do not know if anything has been hit, but in the distance, we could see some of those ballistic missiles slipping past air defense and slamming into the ground. It's unclear at this point what they were able to hit.
So, Trey, per a military official directly to Fox News. Just want to reiterate to our audience, dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles are en route to Israel. The people of Israel have been instructed to remain in bomb shelters until further notice. Based on the activity we just saw there, Trey, one might think there's more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a country that is prepared for the possibility of days of missile attacks coming from the Iranian regime. Even last night when Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke, he talked about the fact that Israelis would have to stay in shelters much longer than they had to during previous rounds. And I just want to check my phone here as we're talking. As you noted, dozens of Iranian ballistic missiles being fired and reports of an impact in Tel Aviv. Again, people are in shelters, but these shelters, known as mamads here, that are attached to apartments and houses, are meant for, they're meant for rockets coming from places like the Gaza Strip. And guys, come back. Okay, stay with us, guys. There's an impact site very close to here. Just stay with us. Talk to me, John. Sandra, I'm with you.
Yep, we're here.
Yeah, so we can see that some smoke is rising from an area of downtown Tel Aviv, as we saw a missile impact there. We don't know if it was a missile that came in unintercepted or if it was the remnants of a missile that was intercepted that landed. But you can see a lot of smoke there, Trey, rising from downtown Tel Aviv.
Yeah, and guys, I want to caution here. We don't know at this point what was hit, and we can't even confirm this impact. There are initial reports of an impact, but the air defense systems that we're also working from that very area in the heart of Israel's second largest city. And so we often see smoke like that following air defense systems being active. We simply don't know what was hit and what part of the city it was hit, and we'll continue to gather that information. But as we talk here, and I'm going to just look at my phone for a moment because I'm seeing if any of our military sources have texted me about what's happening.
Hey,
but
Trey,
as we move forward,
Trey,
the Israelis are preparing.
If I could just jump in here for a second, Trey. As you were moving inside with your crew, we did see an impact and an explosion in that area where the smoke is rising from now with a remote camera. So it does look like there was some sort of missile impact. Yeah, and look, this area of Tel Aviv is very densely populated, right next to a main highway that moves along. I'm being very careful. We're getting some information in, but I just can't confirm it in real time, and so I'm being very careful with what I tell you, given how sensitive this is. What I can say, just according to the couple text messages I just read from Israeli security sources, this is a very significant attack, and emergency crews are responding, ensuring that no one was injured and checking different areas of Tel Aviv. I do want to just review what we saw when we started this hit out on this balcony, John and Sandra. We saw Israel's missile defense systems active from all directions, and the fact that these close-range systems in Tel Aviv were active so close to where we were, intercepting missiles just over this city, it's an indication, once again, that Israel has the capability to shoot down some of this incoming fire, but not all of it. And that is part of the concern as this story develops and as the Israelis continue to strike Iran. They can hit many of these launching positions, but the Iranians have thousands of ballistic missiles that they could use against Israel. And as we heard in that statement that we got from an Iranian official coming from Iran's supreme leader, they are preparing for war with Israel. And Israeli officials are not yet calling it a war, but what we are looking at is days of conflict ahead. The city is very quiet right now because people are still in bomb shelters. This is a country that has experienced these types of missile attacks before. And when we look back to the October 2024 missile attack that was conducted by the Iranians, there were around 300 ballistic missiles that were fired at this country. And initially, some of the officials that we talked to, and it's why I'm being very careful with what I'm saying here, they told us that many of them were intercepted. It was very successful. But the reality was videos started to come out showing that Israeli bases took significant damage because these missiles are traveling so fast and there's only a limited amount of air defense capability on the ground here. And remember, that was a missile attack that was in response to the killing of the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, and Hamas leadership, including Ismail Haniyeh, in the Iranian capital of Tehran. What we saw overnight, it's hard to even put into words how much more significant it is. What we're looking at right now
is the big conflict that everyone discussed for decades, a possibility between Israel and Iran. Overnight, the Israelis took out the entirety of Iran's IRGC Air Force leadership. Again, as we can report from sources that we've talked to in the Israeli security establishment, that was a surprise attack. They got these officials to a meeting point in Iran and kept them there before killing all of them. They killed the head of the IRGC. They killed Iran's top nuclear scientist. They have damaged both the Natanz facility and other enrichment facilities in Iran. They have targeted missile production sites. They have targeted launching positions. And the Israelis are continuing to strike Iran as we speak. And so it places what is happening right now in such a larger frame. The one thing that we should note here, and this is very important when we look at the context of the current ballistic missile attack that just took place against Israel and the ongoing conflict between officials here that are now conducting an ongoing operation against Iran and the Iranians, is that Iran no longer has the strength of its proxies, like Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. Now, the Houthis have still been able to maintain a ballistic missile capability. Earlier today, they fired a ballistic missile at Israel. It had actually landed outside the West Bank city of Hebron, but they are able to fire in very small moments. They're not able to launch large barrages. Hezbollah was long considered the biggest threat to Israel in a possible conflict with Iran. But as we know, the Israelis methodically took out the leadership of Hezbollah, from Hassan Nasrallah to members of the Radwan forces. We were with Israeli forces on the ground in southern Lebanon as they cleared out the villages and the rocket launching positions along the border. And they've gone off after the precision missile components and sites in Lebanon, in the capital of Beirut. And so Israel's main focus right now is defending not about attacks from places like Gaza or Lebanon or Yemen, but directly from Iranian territory. And we know that they have the ability to strike major population centers. We're getting in some new information now from the top spokesman for the medics in Tel Aviv. And they say that following the recent red alert sirens, no calls have been received for emergency dispatch at this time. So it's an indication that despite the fact we saw some of those missiles landing inside Israel and those interceptions overhead that certainly create significant shrapnel that rains down on the population below. At this point, initial reports indicate there are no injuries. Again, this is very preliminary information. And as we talk here again, I'm just checking through the different sources that we're getting information from. And I, again, just want to be very careful about what I report live here because we're getting a lot of different information and we need to confirm it in real time. John,
well,
Sandra?
that certainly would be extraordinary, Trey, if you don't have any injuries. We saw at least 3 impacts. Looked like a couple were from damaged missiles that had been intercepted, and then one seemed to come in full force, and the smoke hanging over Tel Aviv. But if indeed this is the beginning of war between Israel and Iran, it would seem to me that it's going to look very different depending on which country you're in. Iran has no other capability, it would seem, other than to throw these ballistic missiles into Israel. Meantime, Israel is capable of widely penetrating Iran's airspace, launching pinprick attacks to take out its infrastructure. And so Iran's got to be worried that while it may be able to lob missiles at Israel and get the odd impact, as we saw here tonight, Israel can hit where it wants, when it wants, and who it wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the other part of all of this, and I think it's something we have to talk about, it's the American forces and the bases and embassies across the region. And we saw earlier in the week a decision that was made by the Americans to partially evacuate the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. All non-essential personnel told to leave. Other embassies and U.S. missions in places like Bahrain and Kuwait, there was a voluntary evacuation order for the family members of embassy staff and military forces in these areas. The concern is that not only will Iran try to target Israeli population centers like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, but that the Iranians will try to target U.S. bases and U.S. forces in the Middle East. And I think back to January of 2020. I was in Baghdad, Iraq, reporting following the drone strike that was ordered by President Trump to kill top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. And at the time, the Iranians responded with 13 ballistic missiles, and they soared through the skies of Iraq and targeted western Iraq at a base called Ain al-Assad. there is concern that something like this could happen in the hours and days ahead as the Iranians respond to the Israeli strikes.
All right, Trey,
John,
we're
Sandra.
going to let you catch your breath, check in on your sources. We'll check back in with you shortly.